Hey Michele, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, we can all hear you. Thank you so much for patiently waiting in the waiting room. We are running a little bit behind schedule. Michele, before I hand it over to you, I'll just give a brief introduction about you to our audience. Dr. Michele is currently a of AI at Replit. Prior to Replit, he's been at Stanford as a researcher instructor. He's been a head of AI applied research at Google X. And before that, he had his own startup in the semantic web search space. He's also an investor and advisor for AI-first startups. He's a recognized authority in the field of LLMs, machine learning, data science, and he has a deep, deep passion for shaping the future of software development through AI. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Michele Catasta. Awesome, Michele. All yours.
Perfect. Thanks for the intro, kind words. I'm wondering if you can see my share screen.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. With my slides. Perfect. Okay, just wanted to confirm that because I don't have any feedback on my hand. Okay, good evening, everyone. So I will be talking about how we apply generative AI at Replit to make software developers more productive. And let's say we're going to make this last 15, 20 minutes, and then I'm more than happy to open the stage for questions and answers and chat about anything that you're excited about in AI. All right, so let's get this started. Our North Star at Replit is literally to speak software into existence. So we have this little demo that I think went viral a couple of months ago. And what is going on here is we open the mobile app, we add a speech-to-text layer in between where you can dictate what you want your application to do. In this case, we're asking to make an app that lets you record your workout routines. And in the background, GhostWriter, our AI assistant for coding, writes the whole web application from scratch, clicks the button, deploys the web app, and here you can see that it's up and running perfectly. Of course, this is not happening for any level of complexity of an application. We're doing this for something relatively easy, but you can see why this is our North Star. At Replit, we want to build the shortest path between an idea and putting software in production. I think we already moved the first steps, and over time, we're going to make this more and more powerful, such as we can really democratize the access for new people to become software developers. As of today, I think the statistics tell us that 30, 40 million people in the world are capable of writing software, which is only a tiny sliver of of mankind. And software is so important and so disruptive across many industries that it doesn't make sense that only relatively few people in the world are capable of contributing to that. So our mission is really to empower the next billion software developers in the world as soon as possible. How are we going to make this happen? So, unsurprisingly, I'm going to be talking about generative AI in the context of software, because this is our big bet as a company, that we're putting a lot of effort in figuring out how can we use the latest AI technology to bring more developers to Replit and in general, to contribute to the world. What we have been already seeing, thanks to Replit GhostWriter, thanks to GitHub Copilot and other startups in the field, is software is getting easier to make. And this is because not only the IDEs and the developer tools are improving, but also because generative AI is really making software developers more productive. So as I showed you before, you can go really from an idea to software in just a few minutes. In turn, this means that software is getting cheaper and faster to make, and the demand for software will go up because the expectations are that we can produce way more of it now compared to in the past. And the outcome that I really expect and we really hope to see is that there will be a massive expansion of what it means to be a developer. As of today, most of the developers went through several years of study, maybe they have a computer science degree, and that's why the funnel shrinks more and more towards the end, where we get only few people being considered as code literate. I want really to see a massive expansion of who consider themselves to be a software developer. I brought up this interesting example. So she's Priya. She just attended our hackathon, I think, a couple of days ago at the Replit office, and she's a product manager that participated in an hackathon, I think, a bit more than a month ago. And she doesn't have a strong coding background, but she has been helping developers in companies to go through a product idea and turn it into software. Now, in San Francisco, I would say in the past 6 months, we have seen this explosion of AI hackathon events, which is amazing. And not only software developers go there, but also a person like Priya, who hasn't been writing code her whole life, but has a clear understanding of what software can do. And what Priya did is she used Ghostwriter Chat, she used other products that would help her to go from expressing the idea in natural language in English into creating large blocks of code for her that would solve the problem. And long story short, she won the hackathon in the non-technical track. She built a really nice application that went from a set of study notes, so purely text, into a multimodal version of those notes, so like including images, including audio, and making the study notes way more compelling, way more interesting. And this was done only in a matter of a few hours. So at Replit, we've seen Priya's story, we're seeing many more stories such like hers. This is very inspiring to us, especially to me, that running the AI team, it really gives me the drive to hone our skills and make our AI way more powerful so that we can replicate Priya's story 1,000 times. Now, I think most of you already know what is Replit, and there are a lot of users there, but let me give a quick refresher what it is. So it's a platform to build and collaborate on code on pretty much any language. I think as of today, we've surpassed the 23 million users. So we have a very large community of creators and learners. So people at any level in terms of expertise. People love Replit because the moment you log in, not only you get your developer environment, you also get your small cloud computer where you can run and deploy application. You get all the perks of, like, say, versioning code and storing your own files, etc., etc. So like you log in a place where everything is ready for you. Like you click a button and you can start to write software immediately without wasting a lot of time setting up your environment. But apart from this initial layer that I told you about, now I want to do a deep dive on all the different AI components that we have in Replit today or that we have been building, so that you get an idea of where we're going over time and you can get excited about our roadmap. So the first component is already in place, is the AI code assistance. And how many of you have been using this, or if you've been using GitHub Copilot, you know what I'm talking about. So this idea that while you're writing code, if you idle for a little while, in background, an AI model, a large language model in this case, reads the context of your file and proposes you a completion. So this completion could be of several different sizes. I think at Replit we chose this trade-off where we try to give a completion as fast as possible, perhaps in exchange of making it slightly shorter. But our users were getting a lot of feedback that they love it because it feels like our AI is literally reading your mind and completing what you're about to write. And there are several studies at this point that show that an AI code assistant, such as the one you're seeing now, working in parallel with a developer, can make you up to even 50% more productive during your coding session. So this is something that we had in Replit until, if I recall correctly, Q3 of 2022, so almost 1 year. But we are never content with the performance that we get, and we always want to make it better. So what we did is we started by using an open source model for code. And of course, we are grateful that open source exists, and we're grateful that we could get a head start thanks to that. But we thought, what if we train our own model? What if we can get it even better? And a couple of months ago, we released our first Replit language model, which in this case is a bespoke code completion model. And we decided to train it completely from scratch. So it's the first time that an LLM for code has been trained using the same recipe of Llama. So Llama is this very, at this point, famous family of language model released by Meta a few months ago. And the key insight from the paper and from that scientific contribution is the fact that we have been under-training severely language models in the past. As in, we haven't been feeding them with enough input data to really squeeze as much power as possible from these language models. So what we did is we created a very large data set of code. Like in this case, we trained on 525 billion tokens of code. For those of you that are not familiar with tokens, you can almost map them to a word. So it's a very large data set. We're talking about hundreds of gigabytes. It's not easy to collect this much data, not because there is no code available out there, but because language models require very clean data as input. So like if you pass any like long configuration file, for example, or like any file that is very repetitive, you can actually break the underlying neural network in a language model. So it's non-trivial to collect such a large amount of data and clean it and make sure that the model works correctly. So with these two ingredients in place, we're capable of getting like a 40% performance improvement compared to the model we were using previously. And interestingly enough, we have been putting this model in production since more than a month at this point, and the performance that we are experiencing here is not based on benchmarks. It's actually based on how the users are experiencing our AI code assistant. So what it means is that we track how many times a user accepts the code completion that we generate, and compared to the previous version of the product, now we're seeing 40% and above improved acceptance rate. So compared to before, basically the users are liking what the model generates way more often. And this was our goal. Of course, it wasn't the size of success that we expected. I think this exceeded our expectations, but this is emboldening us to create new models in the future. And for those of you who have been using it and are interested, keep following us because we're going to be releasing new models with my team in the months and in the quarters to follow. So the model is called Replit Code V1-3B. It's a 3 billion parameters model, so it's relatively small. It's easy to serve. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people that took it, run the inference on their laptops, and have built basically a plugin for VS Code, unfortunately, not for Replit. They built their own plugin to have a completely private version of a coding assistant. So you don't have to send any messages to the cloud. The model is running it locally, the plugin talks locally, and this builds the AI code assistant for you, a personal one. And the model supports 20 languages, so like we picked the most used programming languages out there, and it's really, really fast. So I invite you to use it on Replit, and you will see that it's probably 4 times faster at the very least compared to GitHub Copilot. And of course, there is a trade-off here. It's a smaller model, so it's slightly less powerful, but having a user experience where the completions are generated instantaneously, it's something that our users love and for which we get positive feedback on a daily basis. The last thing that's important to mention here is this model is open source. So you can go on Hugging Face, search for Replit, and you will find the model, you will find the code that we use to serve it, you will find all the details needed on how to rebuild it yourself, or like how to fine tune it, how to do instruction tuning, like anything that you like, you can build on top of this model, to the extent that we even released it with a license that allows you to use it for commercial purposes. So it's yours. We love open source at Replit. I think a lot of the company has been built on top of amazing open source packages. And we wanted to give back to our community, and that's why we released this model. I'm not going to go through the different benchmarks, for the sake of time, but the highlight that I wanted to give is that we are not the first ones to build a large language model specialized on code, of course, but we're probably the first one to obtain this kind of performance at a much smaller model size. So in this table, you can see some of the other state-of-the-art, such as StarCoder right now is the most powerful language model of code to release open source. But you can see that it's more than 5 times larger than our fine-tuned version of the model. And as I was hinting at before, that comes at the price of slower inference and making the developer experience less exciting compared to the model that we have now. Perfect. So we talked about code completion. Now let's go to the next step. Let's talk about how to do AI pair programming. So what we built, and I think we released this just a few months ago, it's a product called Ghostwriter, and namely we have a chat version of that running on your IDE. Again, it's available on Replit for everyone, for a trial. So I invite you to take a look and find out, how powerful it is and how much it helps you to write your code. And here we brought it a notch above. Rather than just completing the code that you already have in your IDE, what we allow you to do is to have a conversation with our chatbot, and the chatbot will usually reply with not only explanations of why certain decisions have been made and maybe some of the libraries and frameworks that you should be using, but it will also write an initial version of the file that you need. And for those of you that have been using, for example, say ChatGPT or other similar solutions, the key difference there is that we build for you automatically always the prompt. So rather than having to go around and copy paste content and figuring out what you should be telling the chatbot, we are building all of that automatically for you. So every time that there are several files in your workspace that will be useful context for the AI, we decide which ones to take and we pass them automatically to the language model, together with your previous chat history messages. So let's see how this looks. I prepared a demo of the state of the art of I think we're going to be releasing this in a few weeks, available to everyone. So we have a Ghostwriter example here. The user is asking to write a basic Flask application. As you can see here, the Ghostwriter chat understood what is your intent. So it's saying, I'm using the generate code action. So we understood that what we're asking for is to just write code. So we go ahead and we just write the scaffolding of a very basic Flask Python application. And the code goes straight into your editor. Now, we decided, we changed our mind. We said, let's have a fast API instead of a Flask application. So we asked in the chat editor to make my app use fast API. And here again, we detect your intent, which is transforming code. And rather than generating a new file, we generate a diff. So this diff now, if you like the output of what we created, you can replace the original. And as you can see on the left, we got the fast API version. Now we keep asking questions, to transform the code further and make it do exactly what we need. I think now we're content with the status of our code, and we ask, how can I deploy this? And here Ghostwriter understand that you're on Replit, so you actually want to deploy your software in Replit. And oops, the video went a bit too fast there. So we give you a chunk of the Replit documentation that explains you exactly how you can release the software. And you just go ahead, click the release button. We start the web server in background. And as you can see from here, the app is running correctly through this embedded browser that we have in Replit. Pretty cool. Okay, so this is the status quo. That's where we are right now. I'm gonna then be showing you where we're going, with our team. And the ultimate goal that we have is to create an ADI, which stands for Artificial Developer Intelligence. So at Replit, of course, we are excited to follow all the latest progress in AI. So of course, I'm sure you've been hearing about the fact that a lot of companies and a lot of researchers are working on building a generic intelligence, so an AGI. Replit is laser focused on developers. So what we want to build is, can we simulate or can we get as close as possible to what a developer does on a daily basis? And I will dare to say that's a more narrow scope, of course, compared to building an AI that is capable of solving several different tasks. But it's also the kind of scope that we need to empower our developers on the platform. So how are we doing this? At the core of our research work, we are rethinking what it means REPL. So REPL is also what's naming our company, is this read, eval, print loop that you have been using every time you open a code interpreter. And we decided to rename it and make it more meaningful in the AI era. So our REPL loop when building an artificial developer intelligence is the following. First of all, we have a reflect stage where the AI devises the execution plan. It literally decides which code it should be generating and running, which tools it should be using, which external API it should be calling. Then we go through the evaluation step. So we run all this plan. And at this point, if the evaluation was successful, you got exactly what you wanted, you're happy, you saved a lot of time. But if the evaluation is not successful and the code generates errors and debug signals and so forth, what we do is we percolate up all the useful runtime information and debugging and maybe some of the user actions we did on the IDE. So we package all this information in a way that is understandable for our AI, and we pass it back to our ADI loop, and we learn and we self-improve our model so that at the next step, we have higher chances that the evaluation will be successful. Okay? So we're building this self-improving loop to make sure that rather than you having to figure out how to fix your code and how to improve it, the AI does that as much as possible in background. And over time, as a Replit user, you will see that we're going to be getting better and better at this, so that you can focus on being creative rather than having to deep dive in your code base and fix a very pesky bug that requires several hours to find. Now we're not there yet. As I've been telling you, we've been working hard to figure out how to make this happen. But today I want to give you a glimpse of where we're going. I want to give you some bits and pieces of what is our ultimate vision to show that we're down in the trenches working on that already, and hopefully you're going to start to see some of these features available to you very soon. So this first demo, for those of you who have used Replit, you know that we have a lot of templates available, and templates are amazing, right? You know that you want to build a certain app with maybe some dependencies, like say we want to write a Python game, then we know exactly which template you should be starting from. We save you all the time and the headaches about the dependencies you should be installing, how to set up the environment, and so forth. But as a developer today, you need to know that that template is available, and you need to know that you should select it. How cool would it be if the moment I create a new REPL, I state in natural language what I want, like in this case is a connect for game in Python, a very simple thing. And in background, first of all, we pick for you the right template. So in this example, you see that the AI thinks a bit and decides, okay, you just need a basic Python template. We accept that, and immediately GhostWriter takes the instructions that the user passed, generates the whole code base, and of course, with the caveat that this is not such a hard problem to solve, so it's a relatively simple game. So we accept what the AI has generated, we just run it. We literally haven't written a single line of code here. We went from a high-level intent expressed in English into just clicking buttons and accepting the choices that the AI has made. And as you can see, the game here is up and running, work correctly on your command line. So this is, say, one small aspect of what we're going to be building holistically. Let me show the second demo that we cooked up literally a week ago during a hackathon internally ourselves. So here is slightly more complicated, so let me guide you through the screen. On the left, we have a backend running. The reason why I split the screen this way is because I really wanted to show you that this is not like a Figma mockup, it's not just design, it's actually up and running. So we take this backend on the left, and which is running a, an AI agent. And we started from a relatively famous open source project, and then we improved it and we made additional work to integrate it into Replit. So what this agent does is it takes a high level, again, description of what you want your application to do. Here is create an image size reducer program. I think it might be a common line software that you're using in your life already. You have large images, you want to reduce all of them in size in batch. And rather than behaving as it did in the previous demo, where we just asked the language model to generate a big chunk of code, we go first of all through the step of deciding, let's build a plan that would allow us then to have this application. So the description given by the user is very high level and it's very ambiguous, right? It's just create an image size reducer, but there are so many choices that we didn't explain to the AI. So here the AI replies back to you by asking, I need clarification on all these different areas. So it's requesting the user for feedback. And the user goes through that, here we're replying, okay, I want to write this up in Python. I want to support JPEG as input and output format. Let me skip, so that we save a bit of time. Sometimes we leave freedom of choice to the AI. So we say, okay, choose the best method that you think is available. So the AI can go ahead and pick their favorite option, and blah blah blah. Everything is working. At this point, again, on the left, and you would see that we went through these different steps. Now the AI decided I need to generate several different files. So you see that we're going through the process of generating our main.py, and then we're going to be generating an image processing.py file, and so forth. Now the good thing compared to how Ghostwriter works today, and I really hope to give this feature as soon as possible in Replit, is the moment the code generation is completed, you will immediately get your files in the workspace. So if you check now on the right, on the file tree, you will see the main.py and image processing have appeared already. So those files are already in your workspace, and as usual, we just go ahead and install the dependencies, because here we have to do some additional work to install them automatically, otherwise it can be quite disruptive. But after we did that, we just run the program. So again, we didn't literally write a single line of code, and we just call our image reducer, we pass it over a test image. I think we picked an actor, don't ask me why, we just typed. So I think this is Michael Fassbender, a very famous movie actor here in the US. And we just run the program and created the reduce file, JPEG file. And again, here, 0 lines of code, just explaining to the AI what we wanted. Okay, so I think this is all for my talk today. I hope I gave you a good overview of where we stand in AI today at Replit and where we're going. Sorry, I'm just looking for the window with the webcam so that I can see all of you. And yeah, the last thing I wanted to tell you is, there is, of course, a lot of criticism of what AI can do and cannot do, and also what kind of market it can disrupt. My feeling is, as you're seeing until now, this is not something as powerful as an experienced developer. So I don't feel we're building something that can jeopardize the jobs of millions of people. Rather, we're building something that allows you to focus more on your creative idea rather than writing a lot of boilerplate code. That is definitely something that no one is interested in doing. And I know that in this producing more than 200,000 computer scientists graduates every year. So we are really excited to see that the developer community in India keeps growing at an amazing pace. And we would love to make Replit as powerful and stable as possible to your community. So I would love also to spend maybe part of our Q&A session today and where you can give me feedback, open-hearted feedback. You can tell me what you would like us to build, and I'm more than happy to get any questions in AI as well. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Michele. I think we have time for a few questions. We have some mics in the background, so please raise your hand and we'll pass on the mic.
Hi, Michele. This is Meghna from GoCodio. Quick question on the code base caching, right? So say, for example, I'm a coder who comes onto Replit and tries out coding for the first time, and then the second time I want something that is relevant to my persona as a developer. So would you be caching the code and understanding a developer persona?
The short answer is we're not doing that right now. It's in our roadmap to build. For privacy reasons, at the beginning, we didn't even keep any web chat sessions. I think we wanna at least build awareness for the developers that when you're chatting with AI, we are keeping your sessions from the past, and we want to do it in such a way that it's clear what is our goal. It's not just to collect personal data for no reason, but it's rather to make the AI more tailored to the users. But yes, your intuition is spot on. It would be very useful to make sure that the AI understands what you like to use. Like, for example, if you're a Python developer, we should understand that over time and always value towards your favorite language and your favorite operators.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. I think, Michele, I had one question from my side while I have you, which I'll ask. A lot of folks in attendance today are either trying to take some GenAI experiment to production at the startup, or they work for a large company where they're trying to take a prototype to production. So we'd love to hear what have been some key learnings that you can share for other companies that are trying to productionize their generative AI feature at scale, especially from the experience of taking Ghostwriter to such a scale.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we could spend like hours talking about that. The high level I can give you is easy to build prototypes with generative AI, and for any of you who have been trying that, I'm sure that you will agree with me. Like, you literally have a very powerful tool in your hands that you can access through an API. So that's the reason why we see so many prototypes and so many startups idea out there. It's exponentially harder to bring that AI in production. And there are several reasons why. First of all, it's very expensive in general, like especially if you're using powerful models. If you're using large language models from OpenAI or Google, for example, you realize that the bill quickly adds up. So if your application is successful and you get a lot of traffic, it can become expensive very quickly. And that's the reason why we are seeing different pricing models compared to the past. So we're seeing that a lot of products are behind subscription plans, and a lot of products give you a relatively fixed quota of interactions you can have with AI before you need, like, say, to pay or to buy an upgrade. And the reason is, not that people became greedy all in a sudden. It's rather that we are talking about orders of magnitude more expensive compared to building a microservice without generative AI. So that's the first caveat that I want to cover. And the other one, of course, is everything regarding the accuracy and the safety of this model. So, for example, the output that you will get from a language model, including Ghostwriter, whenever you're asking to generate some code, you need to have the expectation that not always the output will be correct. Sometimes it will be almost correct, so the user will still find value in what we generate. And I think that's the beauty of code generation, the fact that there is always a human in the loop. So if we get 80% close to the actual solution, as a developer, you perceive the value of that because you know how to fix the code, you know what you need to add to actually make it work. But there are times where the models are generating garbage, and this happens with code, it happens with text. We have been hearing about hallucinations a lot, I'm sure. The idea that you can ask ChatGPT to tell you about something, and the answer you get is a complete lie. It happens with images. If you have been trying image generation, especially creating images of humans, there are some models that completely get wrong the hands, the number of fingers, the size or the position of the limbs. So this is something very important to keep in mind for high stakes applications and for high stakes domains. It's hard to apply generative AI out of the box. There is a lot of work to be done to bring it at the level of quality required for an AI to say, help a lawyer or replace a lawyer. I just pick one random example, but I want to bring up the awareness that something that appears to be working almost correctly is not enough to build a disruptive application in a domain that has very high stakes, where making an error is not acceptable. Is this a good overview? I don't know if you want to go in depth on anything else.
No, this was great.
Maybe we have other questions based on this.
Yeah, just to quickly go around the room one last time with any other questions before we wrap up. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Michele, for taking out the time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for attending, and have a good night.
Bye. Awesome. That concludes speaker series for the